I understand, you could be freaked out, not ready to have a baby. All of those things could be very true. But for you to kill it.
A college cheerleader and beauty queen arrested in a shocking case. Her baby found dead inside her home in Kentucky. Laken Snelling seemed to be a ray of positivity on social media, but now she's facing charges related to dark allegations. What she has reportedly admitted to police in this disturbing story. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. I will tell you right here at the beginning that there is still a lot that we don't know in this case that just came to light in Kentucky. But what we do know in this story is that a young child lost their life, and we are talking about just a baby. We also know, according to law enforcement, this is that baby's mom. Her name is Laken Snelling. She's just 21 years old, and this is her mugshot from when she was booked into the local jail in Lexington.
I typically don't try to come after these people for their looks, but my God, time and time again, do we just see the absolute fools we all are for believing that these girls look the way they do. Like, this girl's a beauty queen cheerleader when she's got makeup on. And she looks like, without makeup, she looks like Shane Gillis. Like, this video, like the next clip that they show is just crazy. Just watch.
Lexington, Kentucky, and at the time of this recording, it appears
that ain't the same person. That's not the same person. I get that, and the camera that they use, the angles aren't the best, and the lighting sucks, and it's not that flattering. But that's a different human.
She is bonded out. Now again, Snelling, just 21 years old, a student at the University of Kentucky. In fact, she's a member of the competitive cheering squad known as the Stunt Team. Here's her page on the official Kentucky Wildcats website. This is a Division I SEC school. Now, Snelling also appears to be a pageant queen. Her social media shows her constantly posting about beauty pageants and being out and about with friends in fancy dresses like this one, which appears to be for the Kentucky Derby. But now there are major questions for Snelling, and she is being seen in a much different light because of the story that we're talking about today. It all began on August 27th when Lexington police were called to her house for a report of an unresponsive infant. That child was pronounced dead on scene, according to police. And according to the local television station WLEX-TV, police say that baby was found inside of a closet, and there's an arrest citation that the TV station looked at that says the infant was wrapped in a towel inside of a black trash bag. The citation goes on to say that Snelling was read her rights and she allegedly admitted to giving birth to that baby. Then she said that she concealed the birth by cleaning evidence and putting all cleaning items inside of a trash bag along with the body of the infant who was wrapped in a towel. Now, at the time of this recording, it is unclear what the baby's cause of death is. We also don't know how old the infant was when Laken Snelling allegedly gave birth to this child. Now, 4 days after police were first called to Snelling's home where they discovered this dead child, they arrested her. That was on August 31st, and she is now charged with abuse of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and concealing the birth of an infant. It's unclear how open Snelling was about being pregnant, but from what we can see on social media, and I recognize often that can only tell just part of the story, it does appear that she stopped posting pictures of herself in April of this year on Facebook, and then here's her last post on TikTok from June. It's a picture with emojis that describe her, and we did notice in the bottom left, under what says goals, there's an emoji of a mom with a child. Now, again, it is unclear what was going on in Snelling's life, but we did see pictures with a man. It's unclear if this is the baby's father, and it's unclear what he allegedly knew about not just Snelling being pregnant, but the birth of this child. At the time of this recording, no one else. We just learned that Snelling posted bond today per court.
I mean, how she couldn't have hid it from everybody. Someone knew for sure. Her friends or her family, somebody knew she was pregnant, and that's crazy.
Documents acquired by WLEX-TV in Kentucky. We know that Snelling was released on $100,000 bond, and she is currently living at home with her parents. She will not have to wear an ankle monitor. Police say the local coroner will release the results and the cause of death for this child when those autopsy results come back. Now, as far as the charges that Snelling is facing right now, she is not charged with killing this child. At the time of this recording, it is unclear how this child died, the charges she is facing. abuse of a corpse, and tampering with physical evidence, both of which under Kentucky law are Class D felonies. And according to a website for the state, those typically come with prison sentences between 1 and 5 years. Joining us now is prosecutor and former Deputy Attorney General for the state of Ohio, Mark Weaver. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime to help us break down some of these stories that are just so difficult to read about. When you look at this case, I mean, what will the cause of...
I said this earlier. I said this in prior videos. You can never trust what a person looks like. I mean, and I'm not saying like because of the attractiveness level or like the makeup thing, which I talked a little bit about a little bit ago, but just she seems like a good, just visually like sweet, nice person. The persona on social media is great, like what she's putting out into the world. And like, I understand, you could be freaked out, not ready to have a baby. All of those things could be very true. But for you to kill it, wrap it in a towel and put it in a trash bag, allegedly, we don't know for sure she did this just yet, but she softly admitted to it. It's just heinous on a level that I just can't even imagine. I had to be crying. Like, did you suffocate it? Like, did you feed it something that some kind of poison or something? It's just on another level of heinous, and it just looks like a nice, sweet young girl. To think that she'd even be capable of this, for me personally, it just seems like almost not real. Like, just kind of like looking at her, listening to the story, listening to what they said about her so far, about her being, an active member in the community, a cheerleader, a pageant girl. Like, that's scary that someone like this could murder a baby. That is just crazy to me. And it makes me not trust people's faces as much as I once did, or appearances as much as I once did. And I know appearances can be deceiving, and they're meant to be. But I still thought that there was at least some merit to the idea of like, okay, this person seems nice, seems presentable. They're probably okay, but it is just not the case.
Of death, which at the time of this recording, we don't know as of yet, but when that cause of death comes forward, how could that impact this case?
Start with it. What a tragedy. What a horrible case. I argued a state Supreme Court case in Ohio with very similar facts several years ago. It's just heartbreaking that this child won't have a chance to grow up and have a full life. What we don't know is whether this child was killed or whether this child was born alive. And depending on what the autopsy tells us about this child's health upon birth, it will affect the prosecutor's decision of what charges to bring. I don't want to suggest that this young woman killed her baby. We have seen other cases, high-profile cases, including the one that I argued in the Ohio Supreme Court where that was the allegation. But that's something prosecutors are currently weighing.
And the other new piece of information, just as we're recording this, is she was given a $100,000 bond. She was able to post that. She's going to go live with her parents, according to WLEX TV, which has the court document. No ankle monitor. What do you make of that decision for her?
Our system presumes that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and our bail system is supposed to ensure two things. Typically, will you return to court for all your court dates? And secondly, are you a general risk to the public? That second factor is pretty obvious. She's not a risk to the public, like the way somebody who committed a murder spree, shooting people out the window of a car, that's somebody who's a risk to the public. So that's not this fact pattern here. But we want to make sure that she does show back up. Now, with these charges that have currently been brought, that's no reason to flee to another country or something like that. But if she knows facts that might suggest she could be charged with murder, the judge may wish they had put an ankle monitor on her.
Yeah, does that, so let's just say, and I'm not sure how long the autopsy could take, but if it comes back and it does raise the question about foul play in the way that this infant, which we also don't know how old the infant was, but we learn more details, and let's just say it does become a murder case, which it isn't right now. I mean, how quickly can that change in terms of the charges and what her...
Okay, so I gotta walk that back a little bit because we don't know. And I did say allegedly, but I guess technically she hasn't been charged with murder yet, but it does sound like it's going that way. So it just depends on whether or not the baby was actually alive when it was born. Because it was it just stillborn and then she put it in a bag and just like hid it from everybody, which is still pretty bad, but not quite as bad as like, okay, the baby was actually alive. It's a little bit different. So let's be careful there. Be careful there. Doesn't sound like we actually know for sure whether or not the baby was murdered. We'll find out soon, but we'll find out really soon. And I'm definitely curious to know exactly what happened.
Yeah, if they upgrade the charges, and the autopsy can be done in just a matter of a few days. Autopsies typically, depending on the caseload at where the autopsies are done, can be done in a day or two, and you have pretty quick results. What takes a long time is when they have to send blood samples and other tissue samples out for toxic examinations to see if there's drugs or other sort of things. I doubt that's the issue here, that the forensic autopsy expert will be able to decide pretty quickly whether this child was breathing air when the child died. If this is a case where this young woman either didn't give the right care to the baby, because Kentucky does have the Born Alive Act passed in 2021, which requires both medical providers and parents to give the right sustenance to a baby that's been born, or if they decide that the baby was breathing air and then something stopped that air from being breathed, that would be a very serious charge. The prosecutors would move quickly to go to a grand jury to get new charges, and then there would be an obligation for the judge to have a new bond hearing.
This is someone who's accused to this point of, having a dead child, and then that child is put into a blanket, into a trash bag with other cleaning supplies. Just what stands out to you about what she's accused of to this point, and just how serious, it's certainly serious, but just how serious the allegations she's facing are?
When a criminal hides what happened with the crime, that is one way prosecutors show consciousness of guilt, that you've done something wrong. And that's one of the factors that might be present here. Now, I've reviewed some of the social media about this case, and there are many prosecutors in the court of social media who are trying to bring their own indictments. But the court that I live in is the court of law. And in Kentucky, like every other state, prosecutors have to prove cases beyond a reasonable doubt. And a smart prosecutor is going to review all the facts before deciding what those proper charges are. So I'm hesitant to opine or guess that somehow there was more criminal culpability than what's already been charged. Having said that, these are the kinds of charges you bring to put the person into court custody for a bond hearing so that you can then pursue potentially more serious charges.
That was actually kind of the next question I had, because she was arrested, I believe it was 4 days after police were first called to her home for this unresponsive infant, which is the baby that was dead. And then she's now charged with the abuse of the corpse. But why charge with these as opposed to maybe waiting a couple more days to see what the cause of death was, to see if this is a murder case or not?
By charging somebody with a lesser offense, you achieve several things. Number one, you get this person in front of a judge, so subject to bond conditions. So we have that now. Number two, you put that person on notice that we are investigating you, and if you were to start tampering with evidence or doing away with evidence, that's going to be an additional charge. And number three, you have to let the world know that something's happening here. Unless there's some reason, sometimes in organized crime cases or drug buys, you don't want the world to know that you're onto something. In this case, you want to tell the world, we got a problem here, we have some evidence, we're taking action. Looks like that's what prosecutors in Kentucky did.
The thing I'm curious about is who called the police, though? Like, she didn't call them on herself. Like, who found the baby and called the cops? Because honestly, it seems like she could have got away with it. It sounds like she could have. Like, maybe one of her friends or someone decided that they found out about it and decided to call. But I thought for some reason they were there for something else, and then they just so happened to stumble upon it. But like, it sounds like the cops were called there for this very reason, which is interesting. I don't know who would have. That's going to be an interesting detail for me to find out eventually when this case does come out. Like, who actually called the cops on this girl? And was it the parents? Did the parents see it and freak out and was like, "Oh my God, what did you do?" Or did she just want to come clean? Did she have did she have a guilty conscience? I'm not sure, but I mean, the parents sure did post bond for her, so I don't know.
And there's just a lot of questions to this story that we don't know the answers to, and hopefully we'll learn more as time goes on about what was going on in her life, some of the reasons, if she's guilty of what they're accusing her of for all of that. But knowing that you have prosecuted cases that are similar to this, and this isn't the first time that we've heard a story, sadly, like this. I mean, what is the reason that you've seen in the past that you have young women who find themselves in these situations that maybe they didn't want to be in or predict that they were going to be in, but then how do they get to the point where something like this happens?
Yeah, I deal in the law, not in morality typically, but there are consequences when people have sex outside of marriage or when they're not expecting to have a child. In most cases, birth control stops a child from being born. In other cases, people have abortions. In this case, this young woman we're waiting on evidence,
Sure.
may have made a decision that she simply didn't want to be a mother, that she's too young, she has her whole life ahead of her, but there's another person involved. And that's something that prosecutors and all of us have to remember, that when a woman's pregnant, now there's another person, another life involved, and that's something all of us should take very seriously.
And what options typically are there? Because I've been seeing that on social media as well today, where there's places, like a firehouse in some states where you can, if you have a child and it's not, you're just for whatever reason, no judgment, you can leave the baby and then firefighters can find something for them. I mean, typically, what are the options that are out there that someone can have if they're in a situation like allegedly this woman was in Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky has that law, and many states do. And it's a wonderful option for young women who find themselves pregnant and don't want to be a mother. There are so many couples who would love to adopt a baby. So that sometimes when I speak to young people in groups, I'll remind them of this option, that if they know somebody who's pregnant and doesn't want to be pregnant, rather than have an abortion or rather than worry about what adoption looks like, you can take that child to a safe place, typically a hospital or a fire station, and people will immediately care for that child. That was an option in Kentucky, and one of the protections the law brings is if you do that, you are not going to be charged for abandonment or endangerment of child, as long as you're leaving a healthy child in the place that's been designated where somebody can help that child. You can walk away and somebody else will raise that child.
I assume just based off of, and I know, you don't want to assume, but just based off who she was on social media, she had friends, she was out in the public. This was not someone who, it doesn't appear, was out of the, people knew she was pregnant, you would assume, over the past several months. Who else could be, I guess, held if you knew she was pregnant and then, you're continuing this investigation as a prosecutor, who else might you look at that could face charges if they knew about anything related to this pregnancy or perhaps that she wasn't happy with it?
The father of the child and the parents of this young woman are obviously people who need to be spoken to. I went to grad school and law school in the state of Delaware, and I remember a case, it's probably been 20 years, where a couple went to a hotel room not far from where I lived when I was in Newark, Delaware, that gave birth and then immediately put the baby into a dumpster where the baby died. And in that case, prosecutors sought the death penalty against both the young man and the young woman. They eventually pled it out to other charges, but it shows you how serious it can be under the right facts. We don't have those facts yet. We shouldn't leap to a conclusion, but it's a serious thing. If I'm leading the investigation, I want to find out who the father is, what he knew, what his parents knew, and what the parents of this young woman knew. And if the news coverage shows these people starting to lawyer up and not talking to the police, that's another indication that something's amiss here.
Man, that's wild. That's a wild one, bro. I don't really know what to say about that. We'll see as the facts come out what actually becomes of this. But it's just crazy because they're just like even they said in the video, man, this lady had other options. She could have went to the firehouse, which I never even knew about. I didn't know that was a thing, but it's an interesting law. I'm not sure what the abortion laws are in Kentucky, but we'll look them up real quick. No, abortions are largely illegal in Kentucky due to a trigger law that went into effect after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. Law bans almost all abortions, with exceptions only when the pregnant person's life is at risk. A recent bill, House Bill 90, was passed in 2025 to clarify these medical exceptions, but it also adds tougher language and scrutiny to doctors. That's kind of crazy. I didn't know that. I kind of assumed Kentucky might have some restrictions, but I didn't know it was outright illegal in Kentucky. So that is interesting too. That's an interesting fact to add on top of all of this. Abortion is illegal in the state of Kentucky. So that's you don't want to see stuff like this happen. You gotta wonder if that was maybe part of the logic on why she went this route. And I still don't agree with obviously what she did, but it's still an interesting fact to add into the equation though. We'll see what comes of this case in the near future. I'm sure there's gonna be some updates on it, and we'll find out whether or not it was the kid was actually alive. If it was a stillbirth, who knew about it, what they knew. Hopefully we'll find out all of those things in the near future. So